Look at Amazon right before the market close. The last few minutes of trading, the stock crashed. Literally, like just off a cliff, boom, right before the close of the market. The only reason that happens is somebody's got info. That's the only reason that happens. That's literally nothing. That's literally nothing. AMD is a $255 billion company. $255 billion. So when you have $36 million operating income, it's nothing. Literally nothing. Alrighty, folks, we got a big day ahead. Everybody in the chat, get those flapjacks flipping, baby. Get those flapjacks flipping. We need maximum, and I mean maximum amount of flapjacks. I had to shave the head just for this earnings report because you know Mr. Bezos and co. We're rooting for him. Rooting for him today, folks. Get those flapjacks flipping. Get the bald heads flipping. I don't think we have a Jeff Bezos emote, unfortunately. I wish we did. Man, if we had a Jeff Bezos emote, that would be so awesome today. We need one, man. We need one. I gotta be honest with you guys. I'm feeling pretty good about these Amazon earnings, but we'll see. So if we look here, I'm going to pull up the quarterly estimates. Quarterly. Howdy, chat. Hello, chat. Hope everybody's doing phenomenal. So 83 cents EPS expected here for Amazon and about, we can call it about 12% revenue growth. I mean, I would love to see a 15% number plus. If we put a 15% plus number revenue growth wise on the board, I think we're going to go beast. I'll be honest with you guys. I think we're going to go beast. Beast. Talking beast to the east. Oh, yeah. So that's what we need to see overall. Now, if we go to 1000xstocks.com here and we compare, let's say, Amazon versus, let's say, an AMD versus, what is Super Micro's ticker symbol? SMCI, right? Super Micro obviously has insane growth expected for this year, right? But then a major deceleration expected next year. So that should be intriguing, right? And then if we had a Starbucks up here, which they're reporting after hours, we see this, right? So clearly AMD has the highest forward P, slightly outpacing Amazon, right? Starbucks is obviously the lowest valuation name reporting after hours, but also people don't expect huge growth from Starbucks. So current year expected revenue growth for analysts is less than 10%, next year less than 10%, right? Versus somebody like an Amazon's a double-digit grower, right? Now, a lot of people also feel like, so me, I always put emphasis on forward PE, but a lot of people don't, when it comes to Amazon specifically, they don't like to really put an emphasis on forward PE when it comes to Amazon. They look at more cash flow, free cash flow, those sorts of numbers. So I still value forward PE in the end, right? I'm trying to figure out where growth rates go over time, where net income goes over time.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had a pretty powerful rally up to lows about 2 Thursdays ago, where week and a half ago, where we hit that low right after the Israeli strike in Iran.
What happened?
Back, in large part thanks to very healthy earnings, and now we're stalling a little bit. You saw
the numbers leak.
Toxic combination of
when
economic.
The hail's going on.
Yeah, I just want to mention
and weak growth.
Amazon results are out. We are going through them, Adam. Go ahead.
Hell's going on?
No, so I was just going to say you saw a toxic combination of economic data today with the hot inflation coupled with weak growth, and you saw the reaction in bonds and equities today on the downside.
When the hell's going on out here?
A week and a half ago is sustainable.
Okay.
But we're gonna chop around a little
Adam,
bit.
we got to get to Kate Rooney. She's got
a lot of Amazon
numbers.
shares riding.
Hey, John, so for the first quarter, strong beat here for Amazon. We've got the top and bottom line numbers. EPS of 98 cents. That was a beat. Street was looking for 83 cents from Amazon. That was on revenue of 143 billion. Better than expected. Wall Street consensus was 142 billion. We are still looking through the results, but that's the initial reaction. You can see Stock's pretty much unchanged here, slightly higher.
Sounds good so
John,
far.
We will keep
Hold your
looking
horses.
through these results here, especially for that AWS.
Hold your
We'll be right back
horses.
with some
Sounds
details.
good so
All
far.
right. Sometimes it's like baked goods, Mike Santoli.
Hold
You gotta let it
your
settle
horses.
a little bit. It was down 4% initially, but then popped back up to even, and now it's up 3.5%. We haven't even had the earnings call yet. Mike Santoli, I'll go to you on this one. There were big expectations out of Amazon from these results after what Microsoft and Alphabet turned in.
For sure. And also, it's a very consensus long. People are optimistic on the story about what they can do with margins. Obviously, AWS kicking back in, reaccelerating in terms of growth rate. So all that seems to be baked into what the street was expecting. You also had estimates up quite a bit over the past few months. So, the past quarter, they definitely hurdled that. In terms of what
Nice revenue
looks
beat.
like, I think that's where a lot of the
about
focus might
$800
settle in
million.
from here.
Yeah, along those lines, Adam, North America segment sales for Amazon up 12% year over year, 86.3 billion. International segment up 10%, increased 11%.
Great earnings per share
foreign
beat.
exchange rate impact.
Eating up that
AWS,
forward
this is the
beat.
big one, right? AWS segment sales increased 17% year over year to $25 billion. That looks like it's a little better than street expectations. It's interesting to see that after Alphabet beat with its cloud, Microsoft beat with Azure with its cloud business this quarter as well. It really speaks to perhaps the impact that we're seeing of AI, all of these big investments, as these hyperscalers continue to take on more of that cloud-based market share.
Yeah, no, that's a very solid AWS number. That's one of two key numbers with the stock. The other really
Knew
important
it.
one is the North American retail margin, which they have outperformed dramatically on for the last several quarters. So it's really AWS and those retail margins that have been the driver of the story. And so I haven't seen the retail margin number yet, but that AWS is a pretty healthy. It's about 200 basis points plus above expectations. And like you said, echoes what we saw last week out of Google and Microsoft. Still very, very robust trends in these hyperscalers, and that's the reason why they're pouring tens of billions of dollars into CapEx, continue to build it out. Microsoft last week said that they're still constrained on Azure with AI, and so they're still pouring a lot of money into CapEx.
Yeah. Mike, it is interesting because we continue to have this push-pull between macro data and some of the mixed picture we're getting there. The most recent, some of these signs perhaps of stagflation, or at least how investors are reading into it, as signs perhaps of stagflation as we do await that FOMC decision and Powell presser tomorrow. And then on the flip side, some of these secular growth stories
Bucky's
that we talk
crashing.
about day in and day out, like AI.
Micro skyrocketing.
What drives the narrative
Nvidia
here?
up.
Can the two exist
AMD.
peacefully together?
Well, they're fighting it out, I guess, Morgan, is the way I would think about it on a day-to-day basis. And it really converges on treasury yields and earnings estimates, basically trying to find the equilibrium there. And I think that the earnings side is taking care of it as far as the bulls are concerned, mostly at this point in terms of beat rate and everything else.
Bucky's getting hit
I
hard,
don't think
hard.
we're really talking about stagflation. What we're talking about is an economy that might be slowing toward its long-term potential growth rate at a time when inflation has stopped going down as much
Super
as
micro
it
looking
was
good.
last year. So I think it's a long way from there to go to pure stagflation. But yes, it's basically a halt in the incremental improvement along both
Nvidia
fronts.
pushing
and
up
I think
after
that's where
hours.
the market has been stuck really for a couple of months here.
Okay, we got Kate Rooney back with more details from the Amazon report. Kate.
Hey, Morgan. So AWS sales, this is key, up 17% year over year to $25 billion. That's a key number the street was looking for. The estimate, consensus estimate was for 14.7% growth. It looks like Q2 revenue guidance is a little bit light here. 144 billion to 149 billion is the range. The estimate is for 150 billion, so below that. And then operating income guidance, also at the midpoint, was slightly below estimates. But the AWS sales looking strong and maybe accounting for some of the stock rise here. But we'll keep digging through this, guys, and we'll bring you details.
That's why
All right, Kate, thanks. That stock up a little better than 5%.
the guide is the reason the stock is not up, let's say 10%, 15% right now. The guide. That's why it's up 5%.
Now, the 60 basis point foreign exchange impact on the guide here, that could account for some of the softness here, because very often these expectations don't take Forex into account.
No, definitely. And I'm just looking at the report. So the North American retail operating margin of 5.8% is very healthy. So that's above expectations too. The street was about closer to 5%, and that's down just 30 bips sequentially. So, like I said, outperformance in AWS, outperformance on North American retail operating margins. Those are really the two key drivers of this story. And yeah, there's some switches in the guidance that could be FX related. We'll probably get some more color on the call about various pieces of their business, but for Q1 at least, they're still performing very well.
Mike, I mean, we look at the market happened here. We had losses on the month for the major averages selling here. You talked about the fact that Treasury yields climbed higher as well here. We're back to fall.
Oh, man, I never really see Buc-ee's miss like that. That's bad misses from Buc-ee's. No way.
Here, how much can Megacap, I guess, kind of pull the story forward? And
Buc-ee's
when you
really
see some of the
miss
stuff
like
that
that?
outperformed on a day like today, I guess,
the
the
hell?
3Ms, the Eli Lillys of the world, how does that speak to some of these cross currents?
Well,
That's
it's
not
interesting
good,
in terms
guys.
of today's performance, aside from those that you mentioned,
Uh-oh,
industrials in
Supermicro
general are
losing
very
gains.
strong, and they continue to diverge from consumer cyclicals. It feels like industrials are in the right spot today. There's some of the earnings like Eaton and Train, and a lot of those levered to big secular themes. That's working. In general, as I said, earnings are doing their part. They're up like 4% on a 12-month forward basis in the last couple of months, but it was already a relatively fully valued market, and so you have to watch yields because Treasury yields arguably are searching for the pain point for the economy, and they haven't really found that level yet
They didn't put
where
it
it
on their
seems
website yet.
to slow the economy in its tracks.
All right, thank you, Julia. Supermicro earnings are out. Meantime, stock is higher. Christina Partsinevelos has the numbers. Christina?
Yeah, it's higher on the increase in guidance, but let's go through the Q3 results. EPS was
Losing
a beat at
gains.
$6.65 adjusted.
It just
with
went
revenue
negative.
fell
Negative.
short $3.85 billion. But what we're seeing for Q4 revenue guidance, a range of 5.1 to 5.83 billion. So that is a little bit, or I should say about around 5.1 billion. That's a little bit higher. But the company also saying they're raising their full year 2024 from a 14.5 range to 14.7 billion to 15.1 billion. So not only are they increasing their Q4 revenue guidance, the full year goes up with it. And they're saying they're seeing strong demand across the board, especially for their AI servers, which is what they assemble. So you can see the stock reacting to that guidance. Thank you.
Yeah, it looks like we've just turned lower, actually, for Supermicro, down about
Super-
2%.
guys,
Christina
Super
Partsinevelos,
just
thank
went
you.
negative.
Starbucks, another one,
4%.
trading lower right now in overtime. Those earnings are out. Steve Kovac has the numbers.
Yeah, shares are down about 8% after missing on the top and bottom line. We got EPS coming at 68 cents. Street was looking for 79 cents. And revenues were $8.56 billion. Street was looking for $9.13 billion. And even some more bad news in this report. Same-store sales are down 4%. And also a 6% drop in transactions. Guidance, nothing in the release on guidance. That's coming on the call a bit later, Morgan.
Okay. Steve Kovac, thank you.
Skyworks earnings, that's
Skyworks.
sharply lower. Christina Partsinevelos has those numbers. Christina?
Was one of my
That's
stocks
company
back
that
in the
makes
day.
communication chips.
Ooh.
They did post EPS of
Apple's
$1.55, which was higher than the street anticipated. Revenues came in relatively in not a line, 1.05 billion. But it's the Q3 revenue guidance that falls short, 900
Apple's
million, less than the billion the street was anticipating. Just one quick quote. During the March quarter, mobile business was below seasonal trends with lower than expected end marks. And I say that because a lot of Skyworks money does come from Apple. That's one of their biggest customers, contributing 70% of total revenue. So Apple down ever so slightly in after hours on this report. You can see Skyworks down on that lower guidance.
All right. Perhaps some read-through ahead of Thursday with Apple's earnings. Christina?
It looks like AMD's crossing as well. We'll have that in just a moment. Oh, hold on.
Okay.
We've got it. Christina.
After we get at these AMD numbers, I got a lot to talk about. Holy smokes, do we have a lot to talk about here.
We're going to say that revenues are relatively in line with what the street was anticipating, 5.47 billion. Q2 revenue guidance also in line, 5.7
That's not good for
billion.
AMD. They
That's
need to
what
beat,
the street was
beat.
looking for with this name. And if we were to break it down into categories, data center and client business actually did better than what the FactSet numbers that we have. But gaming and embedded, we know that those are two markets that the company AMD has warned about weakness, cyclical weakness. Both of those fell short of estimates for the quarter. So again, Q2 revenue guidance fell in line with what the street was anticipating, $5.7 billion. You can see the shares are dropping over 3% on this.
Indeed. Christina, thanks. Amazon off its best levels, but still higher right now in overtime. We're going to take a closer look at the quarter and what investors want to hear on the call with management when overtime comes.
Okay, holy smokes, we're going to have a lot to go through here. Okay, where do I even want to start? First thing I want to start with is some fishy ass BS going on here, okay? Look at Amazon right before the market closed. The last few minutes of trading, the stock crashed. Literally. Like just off a cliff. Boom. Right before the close of the market. The only reason that happens is somebody's got info. That's the only reason that happens. Somebody had info because the stock was consistently 180 or so, and then just literally the last few minutes of trading, it just crashed off a cliff. Once again, the only reason that happens is somebody's got info, and they say, "Crap, get out, get out." And so, now Starbucks, we're going to get into those numbers in a minute. That's a freaking disaster. AMD, that's not good. AMD can't come in and meet expectations. AMD needs to be coming in and blowing away expectations. They need to be doing NVIDIA type stuff where people are like, what? AMD just put up what number? You can't come in and be like, no. Okay? So Amazon here, by far the most impressive of most of these stocks, maybe Supermicro more impressive, but if you're going to compare them to AMD, Starbucks, and, very impressive numbers overall. Net sales increased 13%. Operating income, $15.3 billion, compared with $4.8 billion in the same quarter last year. That's insane. Net income increased to $10.4 billion, compared to $3.2 billion in the same quarter last year. Operating cash flow increased 82%. Free cash flow improved to an inflow of $50.1 billion for a trailing 12 month. Oh my gosh. Andy Jassy says, it was a good start to the year across the business. You can see that in both our customer experience improvements and financial results. The combination of the companies renewing their infrastructure modernization efforts and the appeal of AWS's AI capabilities is re-accelerating AWS's growth rate, now at a $100 billion annual revenue run rate. Our stores business continues to expand selection, provide everyday low prices, and accelerate delivery speed, setting another record on speed for Prime customers in Q1. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things I'll order on Amazon now, and those items are at my door in less than 24 hours. And sometimes even in less than 12 hours now at this point in time. I live in Vegas, so it's a pretty big city. So, if you live in somewhere rural, maybe that isn't a situation. But the speed that Amazon is able to deliver now is pretty shocking. I'll say that. While lowering our cost to serve and our advertising efforts continue to benefit from the growth of our store's Prime Video business, it's very early days and all of our businesses remain excited by how much more we can make customers' lives better and easier moving forward. Obsessing over the customer experience, that's Amazon 101 there. So obviously they got a lot they're going through there. Holy smokes, this ain't no jokers. Oh my gosh, how many things you guys want to talk about? So looking at the BS, otherwise known as the cash flow here, I want to see the balance sheet. Okay, here's kind of more of the income statement here. So net product sales, over $60 billion in the quarter. Over $82 billion of net service sales, so that's more AWS there, right? And they might throw the advertising business in there as well, as if I can recall. If we look at total operating expenses, only up $6 billion year over year. That's very impressive. Actually, technically less than $6 billion. About $5.5 billion up year over year when it comes to operating expenses. But their total net sales were up we can call this about $16 billion, right? So if your net sales up about $16 billion and your operating expenses is only up about $5.5 billion, boom! We're going to the moon, baby, with that profitability. And sure enough, that's what happened. Operating income went from a paltry $4.7 billion to $15+ billion. Incredible. Interest income also was up up to $993 million for the company, compared to $611 million of interest income in the same quarter last year. Interest expense decreased. That's interesting. They decreased interest expense year over year, even though interest rates are substantially more, by nearly $200 million. Man, I like that. Other operating income expenses. So they had a big expense in this quarter. So their net income, if they didn't have kind of more of a one-off expense in this quarter, maybe it was some Amazon let goes or something. If that was better, guys, we would have been looking at income before income taxes of $15 billion or so. Even when you take that into account, we're still at about $13 billion. That's a freaking good number. Net income, over $10 billion in net income compared to $3.1 billion in net income the same quarter last year. Diluted basis, EPS 98 cents versus 31 cents in the same quarter last year. They're going to eat up that forward P, baby. Eat it up. Man, this is looking good. North America looks really healthy. International looks very healthy. International, they flipped to a profit. They flipped it to a profit. Let's freaking go, baby. International, in this same quarter last year, they lost $1.2 billion. This quarter, $903 million operating income. That's what I'm freaking talking about. AWS, booming. Look at the operating income for AWS. Went from $5.1 billion the same quarter last year to $9.4 billion? AWS? Oh my gosh! You gotta be flipping my flapjacks out here. Flip them all over the place. Let's go, baby. These numbers are phenomenal. North America, 12% up year over year. International, 10%. AWS, 17%. Man, I'll take it. Gimme. Look at cash and cash equivalents. $72.8 billion. Oh my gosh, they're loaded to the marketable securities over $12 billion. Incredible. Long-term debt, 57. They could pay that debt off tomorrow if they want it and still have a bunch of money around. Tens of billions of dollars around. Woo! Woo! Wow. Shares outstanding look to be, up 1% year over year, right? Common stock outstanding up 1% year over year. Man, very impressive. Very impressive, Amazon. This is the type of earnings that I'm like, I am so freaking happy. I have a lot of Amazon shares, right? Public count, I have 1,055 shares. This is the type of earnings that makes me want to buy more Amazon. I'll just be completely honest with you guys. It's the type of earnings that makes me want to buy even more Amazon stock than I already have. Okay, so what in the hell is going on with Buc-ee's? Oh my gosh, Buc-ee's a freaking disaster. I knew I should have damn bought puts on that stock. I woke up this morning and the first thing I thought after I want to see PayPal's numbers is I said, I want to go to Bros. That should have been a sign for me. Buy puts on Buc-ee's. Buy puts on Buc-ee's. But it didn't hit me. But it should have hit me. Right? So, I can't believe, this might be the worst numbers I've ever seen from Buc-ee's. I can't even believe this. And they've been a public company for the entire time I've been an investor in the markets, which is, we got to go all the way back to 2008, 2009. And these are some of the worst numbers I've ever seen from them. There's no shutdowns going on or something. Obviously, if you talk about the Rona period, that was really bad. But this is bad. Bad for the company. Check this out, guys. What in the heck is going on? So Buc-ee's change in comp store sales. This is North America, okay? Down 3%. They got problems in North America. Their hometown. The hometown heroes are having trouble. Change in transactions down 7%. So they went up on price on their customers and their transactions are down significantly, 7%. Store count up about 3% for the company. Revenues flat. Operating income down 6%. Operating margin down 118 basis points. Buc-ee's is one of those companies you expect them to always grow. Always grow comp store sales, always grow revenue, always grow operating income, always grow net income. You never expect them to be going down. That's our bottom line when it comes to Buc-ee's. You always expect a little growth. But that's in North America, right? If you look at international, oh my gosh, this is bad. Comp store sales down 6%. Change in transactions down 3%. Change in ticket down 3%. I don't even know how that's possible. How the heck does your change in ticket go down 3% year over year when you're in an inflationary environment? But guys, Buc-ee's is messy. Messy Buc-ee's. Man, oh man. We're going to go see AMD's results in just a moment here. I just want to do a quick check on what's going on here with these stocks. So AMD right now is down about 4 percentage points. Amazon's up about 2.5%. Amazon, the guide is, the reason Amazon's not up, let's say, double digits is that guidance. That guidance was a little weak, a little worrisome, and then you get into after hours where there's a lot of negativity, and it's no bueno. Look at Buc-ee's. Getting wrecked, guys. Buc-ee's 78 right now. Oh my gosh. Super Micro Computer has now lost all its gains. At one point, that stock was up nicely after hours. I think it was up 7%, maybe over 7% at the after hours highs, and it lost all its gains back down to $845. Nvidia's lost its gains after hours. Apple should be down 2, 3, 4% tomorrow based upon those Skyworks. Let's see how bad were those Skyworks numbers. Skyworks IR. Because guys, here's the deal. Like Skyworks' big customer is Apple. So if Skyworks has a very weak guidance, Apple's done. Like, I don't know the way to put it. Like Apple's freaking done for this upcoming quarter if that's the situation. Skyworks is not going to have a super weak guidance and Apple's going to have great iPhone numbers. It just doesn't work like that. They're a perfect tell on what's going on with Apple's business model. So I want to see that guide. Where's that guide at? Yeah, that line right there basically says iPhone 15 is weak. During the March quarter in our mobile business, we saw below normal seasonal trends with lower than expected end market demand. That basically says iPhone 15 not selling. Not selling. All right, now, look at Buc-ee's now down over 11 percentage points. Let's go to AMD Investor Relations page. Let's look at those AMD numbers here. I mean, the overwhelming thing I heard from AMD when they were chatting there is AMD basically sounds like everything kind of came in line, which is okay if you're, some cheap stock, but not okay when you're AMD and you're supposed to have mega growth. You need to be coming in smashing numbers. You need to come in beat numbers. Lisa Su says, we delivered strong first quarter results with our data center and client segments, each growing more than 80% year over year, driven by the ramp of MI300, AI accelerator shipments, and the adoption of the Ryzen and EPYC processors. This is an incredibly exciting time for the industry as widespread deployment of AI is driving demand for significantly more compute across a broad range of markets. We are executing very well as we ramp our data center business and enable AI capabilities across our product portfolio. AMD started the year strong, delivering record quarterly data center segment revenue. In addition, this is now the CFO talking. In addition, we drove solid gross margin expansion. Moving forward, we are well positioned to continue driving revenue growth and margin improvement while investing in large AI opportunities ahead. So, revenue was only up 2% year over year? I mean, the way Lisa Su and the gang were talking there, I thought revenue was going to be up 22%. 32%, 42%, 2%? And down 11% on a sequential basis? This is not impressive. Down 11% on a sequential basis to up 2% on a year-over-year basis? Gross profit up 9%. Operating expenses flat. Operating income increased massively, up 125%. But guys, the operating income was $36 million. That's literally nothing. That's literally nothing. AMD is a $255 billion company. $255 billion. So when you have $36 million operating income, it's nothing. Literally nothing. Oh my gosh. Gaming segment revenue down 48% year over year. Embedded segment revenue down 46% year over year. Because I'm looking at these numbers, I'm like, how the hell are you growing at these sorts of growth rates? But yeah, if these two businesses are in a depression, then that's going to pull you down. The gaming segment's a disaster for AMD. The embedded segment as well. Looking at the balance sheet here, about $4.2 billion in cash and cash equivalents, $1.8 billion in short-term investments. Total current assets up to over $17 billion. Total assets in general up to almost, hey, there goes an Amazon Prime truck. Almost $78 billion in total assets. Total current liabilities is $6.4 billion. That's against $17 billion in total current assets, so very impressive there for AMD. Long-term debt, $1.7 billion. That's not very much when you got over $4 billion in cash sitting around. Stockholder equity, about $56 billion for AMD here. I mean, when your business is cut in half year over year, like that's insane, man. Pure insanity, chat. Oh my gosh. Pure insanity. Yeah, with Buc-ee's, I mean, the thing with Buc-ee's is, I mean, I don't really think they have a drink problem. I think they got a food problem. You know, they started trying to get more serious about food. I mean, it's probably seems like probably close to 10 years ago now at this point in time, right? But the problem is none of their food items are really that craveable, at least in my personal opinion. It's just anecdotal, talk here. I've never had anything at Starbucks that's really craveable that I want to go back and get. I've tried probably almost every food item they got, and they're very average. Everything is very average. And so I think Starbucks has a great opportunity in food if they could ever make good food. If they could ever make food that's as good as a freaking Frappuccino is, then you're talking, right? Because then people come in and they don't just spend $5-6 on a drink, but they also spend another $10 on food. But the problem is Buc-ee's has gone this route of packaged food that they basically heat up in a glorified microwave real quick. And, you're just not going to build a very successful, big food business off of that, right? So that's kind of my opinion, at least in regards to that. They got to, imagine if they offer acai bowls, fresh acai bowls that were really good. And they had, one or two workers just focused on, actually preparing good quality food that's actually made fresh there rather than these little packaged things they open up and throw in a glorified microwave. Then you're talking. But they really went the cheap route there. And I think, you want to go the cheap route, you're going to get cheap results. So I know several local coffee shops that make phenomenal food, acai bowls and things like that, simple stuff. It's not like this is rocket science. And it's not like it's stuff that takes forever to make. Damn, AMD now down 4.5%. Ugh, it's going to be hard for Amazon to hold gains because these other stocks suck so bad. I mean, it's tough. Amazon's up 2.5%. It's trying to hold on, but I mean, it's brutal. It's trying to hold up 2.5%, but you got AMD reporting their numbers, pretty depressing. You got Buc-ee's report a disaster. Supermicro, expectations were so sky high that it's hard to even meet your expectations, right? And then you also have Skyworks report, basically just tell us that Apple numbers, do not be excited about Apple numbers at all this year, which is something I already told you guys months ago, several quarters ago, but now it's just being confirmed. And so that's going to put a bunch of negativity out there around kind of Apple and Apple's numbers coming here. So, no bueno. Yeah, appreciate y'all joining me as always. Thanks so much for being here. It was a pretty interesting, let's just see before we sign off here where everything's trading out at. Amazon's about 2.7%. AMD's down over 5 percentage points now. Starbucks is down about 10 percentage points after hours, and the Supermicro is now down over 8 percentage points after hours. So Amazon's trying its best to hold its head above water, but man, it's a struggle. It's a struggle, man. All right, guys, appreciate you joining me. Much love once again, and see you guys on the main channel in probably a few hours, and then see you guys on Twitch on Monday for Palantir, which is going to be very exciting, okay? And when it comes to Palantir, we're not only going to react to all the numbers, but we will listen to Palantir's conference call as well. All right, guys, much love. Appreciate you, and peace.